Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. 2018 Fireballs here, back with another MLB 9 Innings 24 video. In today's video, we'll be ranking all 30 teams in MLB 9 Innings from worst to best based on their top batters. Now, the rankings that you guys will see in this video are based on data that I've collected from the overall stats of each team's best batters. So none of these are of my own opinion or for my own bias. I'll let the data speak and let the facts speak for themselves. If you guys haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the channel and like the video down below. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. Starting at the very bottom at number 30, we have the Tampa Bay Rays at a 69.4 average overall. Now, I wasn't really surprised with the Tampa Bay Rays being the lowest hitting team in the game. I was a little shocked because I know they've done pretty good in the past couple years, but at the same time, I understand that their philosophy when it comes to hitting is more of a on-base approach, and they don't get a lot of players that hit home runs or go for power. And in this game, power hitters are very important. As you guys see here, their best hitter overall is Carlos Pena, 2007. But other than him and maybe Brandon Lau, there aren't that many power hitters. Yandy Diaz is not a power hitter. Arozarena is a decent hitter, but he's not the greatest. And the base overall stats for these guys ended up being the only team that's below a 70 overall. So there you are, the Tampa Bay Rays are at number 30. At number 29, we have the Miami Marlins at a 70.1 average overall. Now, this is the second worst team in the game as far as hitters go, and a little bit of a surprise to me because they have one of the best hitters in the game, and that's Giancarlo Stanton, 2017, who had that monster season with 59 home runs. But really, other than him and maybe Mike Lowell and Luis Arias, who is a good contact hitter, the Marlins don't have a great lineup of hitters. There are other Giancarlo Stanton years that take up a lot of the signature cards, as well as Miguel Rojas, who basically has the same base overall for every single year of his. They do have some decent names like Starling Marte, as well as JT Realmuto, but Realmuto didn't really break out until he happened to get traded to the Phillies. Carlos Delgado is also on the Marlins in this, but he's only a 68 base overall. But there you have the Miami Marlins. Coming in at the number 28 spot at a 70.3 average overall, we have the Detroit Tigers. Again, like the other two teams, the Marlins and the Tampa Bay Rays, the Detroit Tigers do not have many high overall hitting cards. They are the first team that we see with legend hitters, but even they aren't that impressive. The best overall ability hitter in the Detroit Tigers system is Dan Easley from 1998 at only a 71 base. And if you want to compete in this game, you really need to be somewhere in the range of 74 to 73 or higher. Placido Polanco is another decent hitter, but again, only a contact hitter, not a power hitter. And what you guys will continue to notice in these lower teams, probably throughout the 20s of this list, there won't be a lot of power hitters. And I do believe with the Detroit Tigers, they would be a little bit higher on this list if Miguel Cabrera was still in the game. But since Miguel Cabrera got taken out, that significantly decreased their chances of being higher up on this list. And as you guys see here, they don't even have that many SIG batters, and the best ones they have aren't that great. Even the legends, best one is Alan Trammell at only a 71 base overall. But there you have the Detroit Tigers. At number 27, we have the Philadelphia Phillies at a 70.4 average overall. This was a real surprise to me because I know the Phillies as of late have been doing very well in real life. But in this game, for the hitters, not so much. They do not have any legend team batters. And for their SIGs, their best hitter is Bryce Harper. His 2020 card is actually slightly better than his 2021. I believe it's a few hundredths of a point that he's better than his 21. But like the other teams, he's really the only good power hitter. There's Rhys Hoskins, who has decent power. And then you can see that Bryce Harper has a couple more cards. Realmuto is also here with Alec Boehm. And Kyle Schwarber is a great power hitter, but at a 70 base overall. But the Philadelphia Phillies were surprised to me. I know they've had really good hitters in the past like Chase Utley and Ryan Howard, but they're no longer in the game. So the Phillies are down at the 27th spot. Coming in at number 26, we have the Los Angeles Angels. And this one wasn't a surprise to me really because Mike Trout is really the only player carrying this team. As you guys can see here, Mike Trout makes up 6 of the top 7 batters for the Los Angeles Angels. And you can only use one Mike Trout at a time. So not a big surprise that they are pretty low. There's also quite a few other Mike Trout signatures filtered in or littered in here and there. There's Jim Edmonds, who's a good hitter. Anthony Rendon, who only has one good year. He is playing this year, so the Angels might get another good Anthony Rendon, Darren Erstad, and then Shohei Ohtani's cards are at a 70 base overall for his hitting cards, but because Mike Trout carries the bulk of the overall with this team, the Angels come in at the number 26 spot. For the number 24 spot, we do have a tie between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Texas Rangers, both coming in at a 70.8 average overall. Because we're in the American League, we'll look at the Texas Rangers first, and they have recently risen to prominence now since their World Series win last year, and have gotten some really good cards such as Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, both at 72 base overall. I remember when the Texas Rangers had quite the good amount of cards way back in 2018 when Adrian Beltre was still playing. Ever since then, though, the Rangers have been very slow as far as getting good cards. So I'm excited to see the Rangers moving up in the rankings, but it's going to probably take a couple more years, maybe even a couple more playoff pushes in real life for them to really get into the higher levels of rankings as far as hitters go in this game. And like I said, tied for the number 24 spot with those Texas Rangers is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, that was kind of a shock to me because the Pirates in real life and the Rangers in real life are kind of totally two different teams as far as hitting goes, you would imagine. But in this game, they have a decent amount of cards. They do have one legend, Roberto Clemente. He doesn't really make an impact, though, because he's a pretty low overall. But some players such as Jason Bay, Jay Bell, Brian Reynolds, Neil Walker, who was added recently into the game, as well as Adam Frazier, these guys make up the high end of the overall count for this team, as well as some good Andrew McCutchen years and Starling Marte. But there are the Texas Rangers and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Coming in at the number 23 spot at a 71 average overall is the Baltimore Orioles. Now, the Orioles, much like the Rangers, have again risen to prominence in more recent years. They've been getting some really good cards. They have Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, young players rising to the occasion, and they will eventually get new cards and better cards as this team develops over the years in real life. For now, though, the top cards in this game for the Orioles are dominated, and I mean dominated, by vintage cards as far as hitters go. You got Rafael Palmeiro leading the charge with Brady Anderson, as well as Boog Powell. Eddie Murray, I did not take into consideration because he's a historic player, and he won't be in the game for much longer, probably a few more months, than Brooks Robinson and this DeCensis guy here. You got Manny Machado as well at the top right there. And as you can see, Adley Rutschman had a pretty good year last year, only a 69 base, but I do expect a lot more from him as the years progress, and we get more Adley Rutschman cards. But there are the Baltimore Orioles. Coming in at the number 22 spot at a 71.1 average overall, we have the Chicago White Sox. Now, the Chicago White Sox in the mid-2000s had some very good hitters. There are a couple of them here, like Carlos Quentin and AJ Pierzynski, but most of these hitters, like the Orioles, are vintage hitters. At the top here, we have three of them. We have Minnie Minoso, Harold Baines, and most importantly, Darren Allen right here at a Dick Allen at a 74 base overall. Ray Durham and Todd Frazier, who was recently added back into the game, are also at the top. You also have guys like Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, Luis Robert, and Jose Abreu cards, and Yohan Moncada as well. But like the Baltimore Orioles, vintage cards at the very top, and some new cards like Frazier, or not really new cards, but cards that were recently added back into the game. But there are the Chicago White Sox. At a 71.2 average overall, coming in at the 21st spot, we have the Seattle Mariners. And the Seattle Mariners have a lot of older players at the top of their hitting cards, and we'll look at them here. John Olerud, Richie Sexson, Tino Martinez, Brett Boone, and Kyle Seager, who was added back into the game after he retired. J-Rod is really the most recent player added here, or in the game here. We also have Edgar Martinez, 1995 legend card, and a Ken Griffey Jr. 97 legend card. So really, really cool cards for the Seattle Mariners there. You also have Jay Buhner, and then JP Crawford is in the mix there. He has some very common years there, 23, 21, and 20. And as you guys can see, the rest of the Seattle Mariners hitters right here. Nobody below a 65 base for the SIGs, which is good. But there you have the Seattle Mariners coming in at number 21. For the 19th spot, we have yet another tie between two teams, and those two teams come in at a 71.3 average overall. They are the Boston Red Sox and the New York Mets. Now, for my Boston Red Sox, I was pretty disappointed to see them come lower in this list because they're my favorite team, and I really, really like the Red Sox. As you guys can see for their hitters, though, 3 legends, Jimmy Fox, Wade Boggs, and Jim Rice, none of them higher than a 71 base overall, though. Their best hitter being Rico Petrocelli right here, and their second best hitter being Mookie Betts' MVP year from 2018. But much like other teams, the top end of the hitters is filled up by multiple cards of the same player, Mookie Betts being the most common, and then you see Xander Bogaerts has quite a few as well. New cards such as David Ortiz and Jason Bay, as well as other hitters like Bill Mueller were recently added, but they haven't made much of an impact. Big Papi is not the greatest overall at 70 base, but he is there near the top, so that's good. But there are my Boston Red Sox, and then the New York Mets are tied with them here. Let's take a look at them. Kind of surprised. The New York Mets have had great hitters in the past overall. They don't have any legend hitters. Their best overall hitter being John Olerud, who has the best overall hitting card on the Mariners as well. You also have Francisco Lindor and Carlos Delgado on the Mets right here at a 71 base. Cliff Floyd as well. A lot of older players, but then as you go down, you see the more recent and the more modern players. But there is the number 19 spot with the Boston Red Sox and the New York Mets. At a 71.35 average overall, at the 17th spot, we have another tie between two teams, and those are the Kansas City Royals and the Colorado Rockies. Now, I am very surprised that the Rockies made it this high. The Rockies actually have pretty decent hitters. They have Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, DJ LeMahieu, all in their primes. You even got guys like Cirillo right here from the mid or early 2000s. You also have Ellis Burks and this Eric Young right here, as well as Charlie Blackmon, Chuck Nasty heading up the gang right here. And in the past, the Rockies offense, I actually probably shouldn't be surprised because the Rockies live in a heavy offensive park. So maybe I should be a little less surprised about this. There you have the Rockies though. And then what was a real surprise to me were the Kansas City Royals. And it was a surprise because higher than my Red Sox. When I think of my Red Sox, I think of the great hitters like Boggs, Jim Rice, David Ortiz. When I think Kansas City Royals, all I can really think of is George Brett. That might just be because I'm not a Royals fan, but as you guys can see here, George Brett has a legend card, and the best hitter on the Royals is the up-and-coming Bobby Witt Jr. His last year card from 2023 was a 73 base, very, very solid, and those 2014 to 2015 Royals had some good years. Some of the players are still here today, like Salvador Perez and Alex Gordon at the more bottom end here, but a lot of the Royals players from more recent years, like Whit Merrifield, as well as Nicky Lopez, are on the top of this ranking for the Kansas City hitters. But there you have the 17th spot, again tied with the Kansas City Royals and the Colorado Rockies. Coming in at number 16 at a 71.4 average overall, we have the Washington Nationals. Now, the Washington Nationals are a team that do seem middle of the pack to me. This seems like a pretty reasonable placement for them. They have Andre Dawson as a legend right here from 1983 at a 70 base overall. They also have really good Juan Soto years, as well as Bryce Harper and Anthony Rendon as well. As you guys can see, the top of this, the rankings for the team batters for the Nationals are taken up a lot by Juan Soto and Bryce Harper, as well as Rendon. But you also got guys like Trey Turner 2018, Tim Wallach and Gary Carter. Some of these guys are, sorry, not Tim Wallach. I don't know where I got Tim Wallach from, but Mike Lansing right here, as well as other Trey Turner cards and Bryce Harper. So as you guys can see, the top end is really crowded with a lot of the same cards here, but they do carry the team to the 16th spot on this list. All right, we're coming to the middle now, and we have yet another tie for the 14th spot. We have the Chicago Cubs and the Cleveland Guardians coming in at a 71.42 average overall. Let's take a look at the Cubs since we're in the National League here. They have two legend hitters, Billy Williams, 1970, coming in at 72 base overall, and this Ron Santo at a 69 base. Their most best hitter, if I can say that, is this Wilkins 93, who is a catcher card. And not often do you see catcher cards in this game get this high of an overall, but he is the best hitter base-wise for the Chicago Cubs. Coming next is Anthony Rizzo, and as you see, Anthony Rizzo has quite a few good cards at the top there. And then next you see Dansby Swanson, Dave Kingman from 1979, who was a great power hitter back in the day, 48 home runs in that season. Then you got the resurgence of Cody Bellinger from last year, another Anthony Rizzo, and some more of the newer Chicago Cubs that have come recently. The Chicago Cubs are rebuilding, and they're looking like they're going to make a playoff push this year in 2024. You also see guys from the 2016 World Series run that they had, like Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, and Ian Happ. But there are the Chicago Cubs, and next the Cleveland Guardians that are tied with them right here. Cleveland, much like Tampa Bay, I thought wouldn't be as high on this list because they have a different approach now. In more recent years, 2021, 2022, they've been more of a contact approach team rather than a power hitting team. But a lot of the cards from the late 2010s still exist in this game, like Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor. They also have a couple legends. Jim Thome helps out massively on the Cleveland Guardians right here. 72 base overall with that 89 base power. You also got Tris Speaker here from 1923, 69 base. And then you guys got guys like Andres Gimenez, Toby Harrah, Carlos Santana, Ahmed Rosario, Grady Sizemore from the mid-2000s. That bring back memories from my childhood. And then guys who were recently added back into the game after retiring, like Jason Kipnis. But there you have that tie at the 14th spot with the Cubs and the Guardians. Kind of fitting since they faced off in that 2016 World Series. Now for the 13th spot, we have what was a surprise to me and still is a surprise to me. We have the Houston Astros at number 13. I'm surprised they didn't make it higher on this list with the amount of good players they've had over the past decade. As you guys see here, we have an oldie from 1994, Jeff Bagwell, who was a very legendary Astros hitter. You also got guys more recently, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Carlos Correa, George Springer. Astros legends, depending on who you ask, they may also be known as just cheaters, but I'm going to call them baseball players for sake of neutrality. You also got guys like Morgan Ensberg and this Glenn Davis and this Jim Wynn. So a lot of really good hitters, but I think their downfall comes because they have so many of the same players at the top, and they're very top heavy. But when you come to the bottom here, there are some guys like Yainer Diaz and Evan Gattis who just kind of make the team taper off a bit. I believe this Evan Gattis really hurts them because he's at a 65 base and he's their best catcher. He really drops that overall down, and I think that's why they ended up at the 13th spot. You also got guys like Carlos Correa, 15, who aren't that great. And Jordan, you'd think would be a bit higher in overall, but he's not a great fielder. So his hitting stats are amazing, but his fielding and speed are in the tanks. But there you have the Houston Astros, which surprised me at the number 13 spot. At the 12th spot, we have the Milwaukee Brewers coming in at an average overall at 71.57. And this was interesting to me. They're higher than the Astros, which caught me off guard, first of all, because I just don't expect the Milwaukee Brewers to be that good. You really don't hear much about Milwaukee Brewers hitters, but in this game, there are quite a decent amount of them. First off, you get this legend Paul Molitor here, which I didn't take into consideration when doing the data because he is not better than a lot of these other hitting cards. Got guys like Christian Yelich, 19, who could have won the MVP that year, unfortunately broke his kneecap while swinging a bat and fouling a ball off his knee. You also got guys like Cecil Cooper here, an old vintage card from 1980, Richie Sexton, who had an amazing season for the Brewers, not really talked about much. I know the Jolly Olive made a video on Richie Sexton, 45 home runs this season, a full 162 games, more Christian Yelich cards, Rowdy Tellez from 22, who got a really insanely good hitting card from 2022, Vina right here, Travis Shaw, who just got added back, and then a great catcher card. Catcher cards, I believe, are what make it or break it for a lot of teams. You're either getting a really good hitting catching card, a good fielding catching card, or you're like the Astros, who have Yainer Diaz and Evan Gattis at a 65 and 64 base. Luckily here, the Brewers had a really good catcher back in 2019 in Yasmani Grandal, and he got a 70 base overall card. And if you go to the bottom of this team, the worst hitter is Luis Urias here at a 65 base, but nothing below 65. So I believe this is well deserved for the Brewers. Again, it still surprised me to see them higher than the Astros though. Coming in at a 71.6 average overall for the number 10 spot, we have yet another tie between two Bay Area teams. We have the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics. Let's take a look at the Giants first, since we're in the National League. The Giants have one of the best legend hitters in this game, with Mel Ott coming in at a 74 base overall. He's a 1932 legend card. Then the best hitter for the Giants, besides that Mel Ott, is Aubrey Huff from 2010. We also have guys like Orlando Cepeda. Again, I didn't take Joe Morgan into consideration because he's a historic player. Brandon Crawford, who had a breakout year in 21. Mike Yastrzemski, Ray Durham, Kevin Mitchell, and Burks 99. We saw him earlier in this video. But since the Giants had that great year in 2021, there are a lot of good 2021 SIG cards like that Brandon Crawford, as well as this Chris Bryant here. There are a few more down here as well, like Wilmer Flores. But the Giants are a very well-balanced team, a very sneaky team overall, coming in at that number 10 spot. And then you have the Oakland Athletics in the American League, who you wouldn't think, based on their performance from last year in 2023, to be this high on this list at making the top 10. But they have really good cards from the late 2010s and early 2000s from Moneyball. Marcus Semien 19 at a 74 base, Jason Giambi at a 73, Matt Chapman, even Robbie Grossman from 2020 made it in here somehow at a 71 base. Don't know how that happened, but it did. And you got Scott Brocious from 1996, as well as Matt Olson's 2 monster seasons from 2021 and 2020. We'll see more of him a little later in this video. And then you got Jed Lowry. Who would have thought Jed Lowry would get a 71 base overall card? He was just recently added back into the game. This is from his 2018 campaign. Jed Lowry, not a name that I would have thought would be this high overall, but he helps the Oakland A's out quite a lot. And as you guys can see here, pretty good cards overall as well. But there you have that tie at number 10 with the Oakland Athletics and the San Francisco Giants. At a 71.64 average overall in the number 9 spot, we have the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, the Blue Jays were helped a lot recently with recent updates, and they got some really, really nice batters as of late as 2023. I believe the 2023 live update gave them a lot of good cards. But here we have guys like Carlos Delgado, just monster card with 81 base power and Marcus Semien from 2021, and then Sean Green from 1999 as well. You also got Joey Bats, John Olerud, yet again, another John Olerud notice, Tony Fernandez from 1986, rest in peace, and this Jesse Bartfield right here. So a lot of new cards that were added into the game, like Delgado and Green, as well as returning cards like Bautista and Troy Glass. Actually, Troy Glass isn't a returning player, but he is a really good card that was recently added. And then looking at the rest of the Blue Jays cards, very consistent. 84s a lot, and you see quite a few 85s as well. And at the very bottom, nobody is below a 65 base. So well deserved for the Blue Jays there. They have a lot of historic hitting cards, especially that Sean Green and Carlos Delgado there. And who could forget Jose Bautista's bat flip? But there you have the Toronto Blue Jays at the number 9 spot. Coming in at number 8 at a 71.8 average overall, we have the Minnesota Twins. Now, this team didn't really surprise me when I thought about it, because back in 2019, the Twins absolutely mashed. There are a few 2019 cards here, such as Max Kepler 2019, as well as guys, well, I may have been wrong. Well, no, actually, Mitch Garver right here, who's a good hitting card from 2019. So we remember that good season that the Twins had back in 2019. But you got guys also like Chuck Knobloch, who got an insane 74 base overall card, as well as Joe Mauer 2009. We all know how good Joe Mauer was back in the early 2010s to late 2000s. Also, you got Kent Hrbek right here from that World Series run in 1987 with the Twins, as well as returning players like Brian Dozier, who had 2 phenomenal seasons in 16 and 17. You also got newcomers like Carlos Correa from 2022, and then older cards like Mauer with here Justin Morneau, 70 base overall. So the Twins, a little bit of a sneaky team here. They had some good seasons, and they've had good hitters in their history, and they make the number 8 spot on this list. At the number 6 spot, we have yet another tie between 2 National League teams. At a 71.88 average overall, we have the St. Louis Cardinals and the Arizona Diamondbacks. We'll take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals first here. They have 2 legends in Ozzie Smith and Rogers Hornsby. Pretty good cards right there. But I think what most helps them the most is the recent additions of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. As you see here, Paul Goldschmidt is their greatest hitter, 72 base overall. This was his MVP season back in 22. You also got guys like Paul DeYoung, who had a breakout year in 2019, probably because of the juice balls. And then you got Nolan Arenado here at 70 base from 2021. You also got guys like Jim Edmonds, Tim McCarver, this Clark, Matt Carpenter, Ryan Ludwig back from 2008. I remember I loved playing as Ryan Ludwig in MLB The Show back in the day. Good memories with him. And then very, very rounded off hitters at the bottom end. The lowest overall being a Paul DeYoung, which isn't bad because he already has that 19, so he's not really taken into consideration. Good power hitters like Tyler O'Neill and even Marcell Ozuna. But there you have the Cardinals tied with these Arizona Diamondbacks for the number 6 spot. And I believe Luis Gonzalez really carries this Diamondback squad. At a 75 base, if it weren't for him, I think the Diamondbacks would probably be somewhere in the 10 to 15 range on this list. Again, Paul Goldschmidt, though, what do you know? He's on the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks in this game. He has years with them, that is. 73 base overall, better than his Cardinals year. And then you got Corbin Carroll, an up-and-coming star at a 73 base as well. You got guys like Steve Finley, Ketel Marte, Nick Ahmed, who got a really good year in 2019, even though he's not really known for his hitting, and he has been not on the front page of Diamondbacks news or baseball or whatever in the recent years. He had a good year back in 2019, and he's still playing. You also got JD Martinez, 17, who had a monster season in the second half once he was traded from Detroit. And you got consistent guys like Dalton Varsho, Christian Walker, and even a throwback to Chris Snyder from 2008. If any of you guys remember him from MLB The Show back in the day, you guys deserve a veterans discount. You guys are legends. And then you got guys like Troy Glaus, who I never even knew played for the Diamondbacks, and then AJ Pollock as well. But there you have that tie for the 6th spot with the Diamondbacks and the St. Louis Cardinals. Okay, now we're in the top 5, and this one at number 5 was probably the most surprising to me out of all of these teams. At number 5, we have the Cincinnati Reds. Now, with the Reds' track record in more recent years and not really being a successful playoff team in the past decade or so, I wouldn't have thought they would have cracked the top 5 as far as the best hitters go in this game. But like the Baltimore Orioles, who we saw way down in this list, the Reds have a good lineup of legends. Now, I didn't even take Joe Morgan into consideration with this team. Eric Davis, Barry Larkin, George Foster, and Reggie Sanders are excellent hitting cards. All these guys have very well distributed stats, Foster being the best power hitter of them all, and Davis being one of the most rounded. You could argue even that Barry Larkin is the most rounded player with no base stat below a 70 overall. You also got good guys like Johnny Bench, who I think personally should be a legend, and then you got Tony Perez, but he's not even really a factor because he's 68 base. He's not as good as some of these high 70 base overall cards. And then Sean Casey, who was just added into the game a couple months ago. This Todd Walker as well from 2002. Eugenio Suarez, Zach Cozart, who was recently added in the game. Scooter Gennett, Adam Duvall. I mean, very sneaky players for this team coming in at number 5. Even Devin Mazzaraco from 2014, 68 base, not the greatest, but he hit 25 home runs. Adam Dunn as well, great power hitter. Just names that you would have forgotten on the Cincinnati Reds. They're here in this game, and they really made a push on this list, and they made the number 5 spot. So props to the Cincinnati Reds for making the top 5. At a 72.28 average overall in the number 4 spot, we have, as expected and should be, the New York Yankees. Now, they could have been a little higher, but they made the top 5 right here, which is very impressive. And a lot of that credit goes to Lou Gehrig, 36 right here, and a 76 base overall legend. 80 across the hitting stats besides speed and fielding, 80 base overall stats, power, eye, and contact. Just a beautiful legend card right here. And then, of course, you got Aaron Judge, 2022, who broke the single season home run record for the American League at 62. I mean, if this team was any higher, it could probably be held by some other Yankees legends like Mickey Mantle if he were in the game. But the Yankees are a scary team to build in this game, and one of the best hitting teams to build. 73 base overall, Curtis Granderson from 2011, Jason Giambi. You even got guys like David Justice, Jorge Posada, some more recent players in DJ LeMahieu, even Hideki Matsui from 2004 and 2009, although his 2009 isn't as good as his 2004. Aaron Hicks, who had that one really good year with the Yankees. Bobby Richardson, another throwback name. That name brings me nightmares as a Red Sox team. You got Bobby Richardson there. But also guys like Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres. Anthony Volpe is an up-and-coming star as well, so he may get some good years in the future. We might see this Yankees team crack the top 3 in the next time I do this type of video for their hitters. But Yankees, very well deserved top 4 finish. All right, we're in the top 3 right now, and the remaining 3 teams are all National League teams. At number 3, at a 72.35 average overall, we have the San Diego Padres. Now, the Padres, as of recent years, have been very good. In their history, they haven't won a World Series. They've made a couple of World Series appearances. I might be wrong about that. They may have made just one back in 96. I also may be wrong about that. They could have made another one in the early 80s, but regardless, they have not been the best team in their history, but recently, oh my goodness, they have had some amazing cards. Fernando Tatis from 2020 at a 75 base, Machado 2020 at a 74 base. The 2020 season really helped the Padres, and I'm not over exaggerating that with those two cards. Tatis 20 and Machado 20 carry this team here, but they're not only carrying this team. You got Greg Vaughn, Juan Soto, Fred McGriff, Xander Bogaerts, Ha-Sung Kim, Plesko, Reggie Sanders, who has a Reds card, as you guys saw. He has a good Padres card as well. Then you got guys down here like Jurickson Profar. This Tennis is their only catcher, 67 base, not the worst, but he does help the team a little bit. You also got guys like Jed Jerko, who used to be in the game, just recently got added back into the game. But yeah, the Padres have some really good hitting cards, some good vintage. They have a mix of everything, and that brings them to that number 3 spot on this list. At a 72.46 average overall, in the number 2 spot, we have the Atlanta Braves. Now, the Braves are no surprise to me. The Braves have had many historic players, you name it. Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, Freddie Freeman, all these guys. And as you guys see here, there's a Chipper Jones 1999 MVP legend, 71 base. He is the best third baseman for the Braves. And then I don't think the Braves would have made this top 2 spot without Ronald Acuna's historic season from 2023. His 40-70 year at a 75 base. You got Freddie Freeman's 2020 year at a 74. This Lonnie Smith from 1989 at a 74 as well. And then just household names in the Braves organization as of now. Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Dansby Swanson, who is now on the Cubs but had some great years. His best year being 2020. Like I said, Andrew Jones, David Justice, more Ronald Acuna Jr.'s. This Rico Cardi at a 71 has some beautiful hitting stats, might I add, as well as this Burrows from 1978, 82 base I, not bad at all. Austin Riley, Eddie Matthews, Orlando Arcia. The list just goes on and on. Marcell Ozuna is one of the worst cards on the Braves, and that's got to tell you something. This 2020 year was phenomenal. He almost won MVP in 2020 for the National League, and he's at the bottom. He's in the bottom 3. That says a lot about this Braves squad in this game, and very well has them deserving of this number 2 spot. But now the number 1 spot, and I don't think this comes as a surprise to anybody. This is the moment you guys all been waiting for. At the number 1 spot, coming in at an average overall for hitters at a 72.8, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers. And what can I say? I don't think anybody could have guessed this wrong. Roy Campanella, legend catcher. Catcher, like I said, being one of the more important positions in the game now. 71 base. I believe this is probably the best catcher. I could be wrong. If I could look back at all the teams, I could identify which is the best, but I'm pretty sure Roy Campanella, 53, is the best hitting catcher in this game. And at the top 10 players, you got Machado, Bellinger, Shawn Green, Freeman, Muncy, Wynn, Mookie Betts, 23, runner-up to MVP last year, 72 base, Bellinger's MVP year in 19, Machado's insane 2018 card, 37 homers. You got guys like Trey Turner, Eric Karros, more Freddie Freeman. The list goes on and on. Justin Turner, Corey Seager, Will Smith, Yasmani Grandal. There's no end. Kirk Gibson. There's so many good Dodgers cards, and I don't think you can really beat the Dodgers. If there's going to be a team that overthrows them anytime soon, I would say it's going to be either the Braves or the Padres, but it's going to be very hard to do. They currently have a lead of over 400ths of an overall point, and that's the biggest gap out of this entire list. I put all the numbers in the bottom corner of this screen somewhere, so you guys have seen all the overalls and their averages. The Dodgers lead by quite the amount. They almost top at a 73 base overall average, and it's going to be very hard for a team to dethrone them in the future. But again, like I said, this came to no surprise to me. The Dodgers are the best hitting team in MLB 9 innings. All right, guys, and there you have it. Those are the teams in MLB 9 innings ranked from worst to best, 30-1. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What teams surprised you? What teams did you think were going to be higher and weren't, or lower and weren't higher? Let me know in the comment section, guys. This was a very fun video for me to do. There will be more coming. I've also ranked starting pitchers and relief pitchers. Those videos will be coming up very shortly. I have all the data set, and I just need to record. So leave a like down below, hit share, and subscribe if you guys want to see more content like this. Feel free to check out the description box as well for other MLB 9 Innings YouTubers that make great MLB 9 Innings content. They would appreciate your support, and I know you guys would enjoy their videos. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram, Reddit, and other social media links linked in the description box down below. With all that said and done, though, that's going to be it for me today. Have a great rest of your guys' day. God bless you all. Jesus loves you guys. I'll see you in the next video.